It's actually pretty helpful.
Of course, too much coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, some people. Thank you, sir.
I just think it's a good reminder. We'll put that next to the back. I think this will get past the meeting.
Maybe if it's only like 4 miles up.
I think you're the only one that didn't, like, your little registration.
I see it.
Okay, you're the only one that didn't have a book or something to put it on. I
That's
wanted to make sure. I know. I just want to make sure it's not.
I'm still waiting for my bag. No,
Okay.
I'm in there.
Oh, okay.
I want to share it.
Taylor, are we good with the video?
Yep, all set.
Yeah, so. True word. I guess it worked. All right, 6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. For those watching tonight's meeting via Diligent Community, the meeting is available live stream via the Diligent Community platform. Please note that the chat feature is not monitored. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted to the Diligent Community website immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the Diligent Community site. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located in the Diligent Community site. For those attending this evening's meeting in person, bathrooms are located in the foyer through the double doors. There are 2 emergency doors from the room, door behind you and through the foyer. If you haven't already, please sign the white attendance sheet on the podium in the back of the meeting room. As a reminder, this is a business meeting and the board, as always, asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. To improve the quality of sound, there is a boom microphone directed toward the commissioners. And as a reminder, the microphone likely will pick up additional audience noise and sidebar conversations. Item 1, call to order, roll call. So I'd like to call to order the February 8th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting. Roll call, Denise?
Commissioner Hemmings is absent. Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Rapp?
Here.
Commissioner Root?
Present.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to welcome and recognize the Winnetka Park District's new Executive Director, Shannon Nizal. As you preside on your first meeting, welcome, and we wish you the very best in supporting and directing the community within the Winnetka Park District. We're thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, I'm excited to be here.
Item 2, may I please have a motion to move to the Committee of the Whole meeting for Local Government Efficiency Committee meeting. May I have a meeting to recess the Committee of the Whole meeting and move into a meeting of the Local Government Efficiency Committee.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
So we will stop the tape and start a new recording. Just please let me know. February 8th, 2024, Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency at 6:02 p.m. Roll call?
Commissioner James?
Yes, here.
Commissioner Rapp?
Here.
Commissioner Root?
Here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Koto?
Here.
Mr. Kehoe?
Here.
Mr. Larkin?
Here.
Ms. Maldonado?
Here.
And Mr. Seaman is not present. But you have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll move to item 3.2, public comment. This is your opportunity to address the board only on matters regarding the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency. Any public comments this evening?
Just on Decennial?
My comments are actually about public comments, as they're being restricted here. Hi, it's Edwin Chenko. So this is a standalone meeting. You cannot limit the public comment to a specific item. That would be improper. I'm sorry, I know what you're trying to do, but it really bothered me because it's a separate meeting. You can't say you can't talk at this meeting. This is not the other meeting, which you're going to take comments for later. And the other thing that bothers me, and as I pointed out before, you guys keep referencing this like 2011 non-binding opinion from the Public Access Counselor saying that it authorizes this 3-minute time frame. That is so false. I provided a copy to your attorney. It says nothing about that. It's troubling that these continued efforts at misinformation. That's all I'm saying. I would like you to please correct that, or if not, I would ask that the board provide me an explanation as to why it believes that the 2011 non-binding Public Access Counselor opinion that says nothing about 3-minute timeframes is constantly being referenced as a basis to limit comment to 3 minutes. So that was my comment for this meeting. See you at the next one.
Thank you, Ted. Any other public comments on matters regarding the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency? May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented from the January 18th, 2024 meeting of the Local Government Efficiency Committee?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call?
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Yes.
Mr. Larkin?
Yes.
Ms. Maldonado?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Item 3.4, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented from the February 8th, 2024 meeting of the Local Government Efficiency Committee, which we already did?
Nope.
No.
Oh, that's the 28th, February 8th. Thank you.
Otherwise, we get stuck in this infinite loop.
Yes.
Having to hold another meeting to approve the minutes.
So let me repeat it. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented from the February 8th, 2024 meeting of the Local Government Efficiency Committee?
So moved.
I would second with the motion that to amend it to fill in the blanks appropriately. How's that? There are X's in for the times that these motions were taken.
In the minutes.
In the minutes, in the draft minutes, so as long as those blanks are filled in properly, I'm in favor.
Can I also make a motion just to incorporate the statement of the public comments received during this meeting?
So we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded for amendments. If the original individual who made the motion would like to amend their motion to have that, then we
Sure.
can consider that.
May I amend my motion?
I think I
Or
amended.
you amend my motion? Oh, sorry.
Yes, that's fine. We can amend it.
Do we want to restate it to make sure that Denise has?
So, I move to approve the minutes, including, why don't you go
The
ahead?
public comments that we received during the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency, as well as the timestamps for the comments and the meeting start, hearing, and end time.
And also including that I'll fill in the blanks appropriately.
Yes.
And also including
Right.
that
Okay.
Yeah.
our executive assistant will fill in the blanks accordingly.
I'll so move that again.
Okay, all right, so we're ready for roll call then?
Roll call,
Okay.
Denise?
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Yes.
Mr. Larkin,
Yes.
Ms. Mladenow,
Yes.
that motion passes.
Thank you. Item 3.5, may I have a motion to adjourn the February 8th, 2024 Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency meeting, dissolve the Decennial Committee on Local Government Efficiency pursuant to 50 ILCS 70/30, and return to the Committee of the Whole meeting. All in favor?
Wait, we need a motion first.
Yeah.
Come on, Ian.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. But I've made a lot of motions here. It's my favorite one.
Second.
So then it's a voice call,
You can do voice.
voice roll. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 6:08. So Denise will stop the recording,
You're ready to go.
and we'll start the
Two lawyers and another commissioner did not vote for the $3 million donation with the restrictive covenant. I know that as a lawyer, you can't break any law, and it appears that the restrictive covenant was taken over a second offer of $3 million with only one restriction and could be used on anything. The first donation of $3 million, they've already spent $1 million in, it appears, drawings and legal fees. Is the restrictive covenant legal? There is no precedent for this. Will the lawyers put it in writing to us as taxpayers and to your board that a restrictive covenant is legal? I find it interesting that 2 lawyers and one other person did not agree with this. We as taxpayers would like to know your legal opinion in writing, as you owe it to us to do so. We're paying for these services, and I believe we have a right to know the opinion in writing from your lawyers. We're spending $24 million.
That's false.
What is it?
You continue to.
You can't take my time.
You can.
You can do it at the
Pause the
end. I
time.
only have 3 minutes.
You continue to.
Well, look, Warren, you
speak
can't
false
interrupt
information.
people. It's part of the thing.
Mr.
I get
Mr.
more
James,
time.
Let's just let.
Yeah, I got more time.
Ms. Stevens, finish your comments.
Okay, well, it was originally $4 million, and it's nowhere close to
No,
that.
that's not true either.
Okay,
Commissioner James.
Warren, you can't do this. This is
You
not
continue
legal.
to spew false
You-
information.
Commissioner James,
Okay.
let
Okay,
Ms. Stevens continue.
So I'd
please.
like to know what the dollar amount is, because I've come to every meeting for 3 years. And that's my understanding of what the 5 walls cost. So, far be it from me. So, the other question is, do they benefit the homeowner to the southern end? Does he pay any of these costs? Why did the Park District, when they gave the library, the Crow Island property, did they get any appraisals? Or was that just a deal done in the night? Like, I'd like to understand if you got appraisals and that was a valued property. The other thing that really did not look good for the Park District, and I'm telling you honestly, is when Red Barn issued a $246,000 voucher. Cynthia's done the vouchers for years. So is it, I don't get to see the voucher. So is the voucher for 40 hours a week for 4 weeks? Because that would be $15,575 an hour. And I'm sure he doesn't get that. So we as taxpayers, when Cynthia was removed from the vouchers and it was given to Jeff Tyson, the appearance of this does not look good. So why would she be removed? She's done a fabulous job. She questioned 1 voucher and got no response. We did not get any detail, and we as taxpayers are paying that, so we have the right to understand what was on that Red Barn invoice. And I feel like we've asked for transparency for years and years, and there is 0 transparency. When people ask for the voucher and the transparency, that we should get it. I mean, you guys need to be transparent. That's what builds trust. So please, give us your trust.
Thank
And
you,
Warren,
Katie.
how much is it?
Costa?
You don't answer questions.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
public comment.
Okay, I
We'll get to-
understand,
Stick around and
I'm
you
not
can
sticking
answer.
around.
But that's the problem. You come.
I have
you don't
been
stick
to every
around.
meeting for the full
Commissioner
meeting
James,
every time,
thanks.
Mr. James.
Thank you,
Katie.
Katie, thank you very
Katie.
much.
God.
Appreciate your attendance as always, and
But I've always
appreciate
been
your
here till
comments.
the end, except tonight where I have an obligation.
Always.
Always.
Continuing with our second issuance of public comments. Any other? Ted?
Hi, Ted Winchенko. Thank you for not reading that. Also, not answering questions, it's not a rule. It's a suggestion, like a lot of the Open Meetings Act. You can choose not to answer questions, but you could have chosen to answer it too. These are choices, these aren't absolutes. In any case, I am here because I couldn't be here 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. I was working. But I did watch it sitting in a dark room on my iPad. I'm disappointed, okay? I'm just disappointed. I agree. Both of the donations were not clean. They both had issues, right? But I feel like there was the possibility of a better solution than the one that was chosen. And it was disappointing that you guys weren't interested in waiting and fleshing out the other option, the other donation. Who knows? Maybe that other anonymous donation would have agreed to, like, I don't know, fund $100 million for the Park District to defend itself against any lawsuits from Justin Ishmael. I don't know, I'm being a little exaggerated, but the point is, we don't know. And it would have been nice if you guys could have tabled that acceptance for a week or two until you had more information. Because in my opinion, this is all going to collapse, okay? This has to go through the IDNR. Justin Ishbia wants a fence. We can argue about, yes, that there's a path around it, but it is clear that Justin Ishbia or his rather highly paid and probably at least reasonably intelligent team has reasons that they're interested in having that fence there. And if the fence isn't there, then he now has the right to withdraw that donation. And I cannot see in the current climate, not just in Winnetka, but elsewhere, that the IDNR will approve a fence into the waters of Lake Michigan. It serves no stabilization benefit. It does nothing. They did not approve any fencing for the Chicago Park District to put in a dog beach, and have now sent a letter to the Chicago Park District asking for them to explain why they have a fence in the lake that was unpermitted. Ms. Snow, general counsel for the IDNR, I have an email, has acknowledged that the public, just a couple months ago, that the public has a general right of access to the lake shore. So the idea that a fence could be erected by this park district to exclude some members of the public and allow others in, I don't think the IDNR is going to buy that. And I feel like it's going to just lead to more problems, because if the IDNR doesn't buy it, if the IDNR says no fence, then now the $3 million donation is in jeopardy, because that aspect of the plan, which he really wants, can't be built. I just wish you guys would have taken a little more time. My opinion.
Commissioner James, we will, I think we do have a brief agenda this evening, and my hope is that we will have a chance for commissioners to share their perspective.
I think it would be instructive to answer questions.
That right now. I agree. I'm going to encourage that we get through other remarks from visitors, and we'll provide a forum for commissioners to address.
Did I see something wrong?
No, I want to answer your questions.
Oh.
Give me a little more color.
I would love it.
Any other additional remarks from
It's
visitors?
hard now, because
Please, Susie. Good evening.
Good evening to all of you, and welcome, Jim. Susie Schreiber, former Park District Commissioner, and someone who is just watching.
The live feed went off.
Well, that's relevant to what I was just going to say. And I hope I didn't do anything just by coming up to the podium.
No chance.
We're still live.
But,
Taylor, we're still live. Yeah, we're good right now.
okay.
Thank you.
We have had continual problems within this room, front and back, and with live feed to the general public listening online, with the audio at the Winnetka Park District board meetings. I believe in your current long-range budget, there's about, and I may be wrong, this is the number I sort of remember from last fall, about $7,000 for audio and things like that. In your upcoming budget deliberations, would you please, on behalf of every Winnetka Park District resident, address the mic problem? Most boards have a mic in front of at least every 2 commissioners or trustees. We have the tax base to afford buying and upgrading our audio system. It is hard, even when those of you who happen to be assigned a chair on the horizontal are addressing someone to either side. It's hard to hear in the back, and particularly with the mics, facing forward. So if you each have a mic, or every 2 of you can speak into that, and we should have much better audio. And it's something that this park district has the ability to address, and the funding to address. I'm just asking that on behalf of all of the Park District commissioners, all the Park District residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Any other additional remarks from visitors? Mary? Welcome back.
Thank you. I knew you'd miss me. Mary Garrison, 350 Ridge. I just have a question very much in line with Ted's question. Why did that donation need to be taken so quickly? Why would you tie this park district for 50 years? Why that? I can't even believe that we will be a public park district and a private citizen, and that he has control. That doesn't make sense to me, but I'm sure you have your reasons. So if that could be explained, why one donation was taken over the other donation, I would appreciate it. Thank you. It's nice to see you all.
Thank you, Mary. Any other additional public remarks? All right. Item 7, communications. Shannon?
All right.
You're on the hot seat.
Yeah. So there were a few things that came out the last little bit since the last meeting. So some of it in regards to the accepting the $3 million donation in the Chicago Tribune. And also in the Real Deal, same type story, and in the patch as well. In regards to those, the record, and also in the Tribune was a article on former executive director John Peterson and his retirement from the district, and there was also, it looks like, we also did post in on our social media in regards to President Koto, who obtained her distinguished board member designation at the IPRA and the IAPD conference last month. So, congratulations to President Koto. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much. It was a little bit of a surprise. Didn't know it was going to happen, so it was nice.
Anything else, Shannon?
That's it in communications.
Thank you. Agenda item 8, new business. Agenda item 8.1, presentation by National Public Pension Fund Association. Beth and Joel, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so I am requesting, I'm bringing this to you to request enhancements to our retirement benefit plans. So we currently have 3 457 plans, and we have 1 457 Raw. Out of the 4 plans, we have less than 10 people who contribute. We all know how important saving for retirement is. So I'm hoping if the district will contribute a small amount to the 457 plan, it will encourage more people to participate and to get the park district's contribution. They would need to contribute themselves to the plan. So that's one of the plans. The other is I would like to offer a retirement health care funding plan. This would be a new policy, so I would hopefully be able to have the policy to bring back in March for approval. And with that, hopefully, if you approve that policy, you will also agree to fund part of that. And it would work the same way. Staff have to opt in, they have to contribute themselves in order to get a park district contribution. So Joel Babbitt from National Public Pension Fund Association is here to kind of give a brief summary of both plans, and then we're happy to answer questions you might have.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners.
Hey, Joel.
Sir,
Good, how are you doing?
you travel far for this meeting?
From Gwinnett,
Excellent.
with an office in Glenview. So it's,
It's the National Association.
well, we have a national footprint. We happen to have been founded here in Illinois. So thank you for the time. So what Beth asked me to touch on was just basically some basics on deferred comp. For everybody in the private sector used to 401k, government has something called the 457 deferred comp plan. The limits this year are $23,000 if you're under the age of 50. If you're turning 50 this year, doesn't matter whenever during the calendar year you're turning 50, there's an age 50 catch-up which allows you to get to 30,500. And then 457 is really unique because it has something called the alternative catch-up, which actually allows you to double down for 3 consecutive years. And so the limit can be up to $46,000, and it's tied into what normal pension would be for someone in IMRF. And so inside the 457, Congress put the Roth, like a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, they extended the Roth to the 457 back in September of 2010, effective for 1/1/2011. And so somebody deferring into the 457, their contribution can be all pre-tax, it can be all Roth, or any combination of the two up to the limits. They can also do with the age 50 catch-up and the alternative catch-up, they can make it all Roth if they want to. So there's a fair amount of flexibility. It's frankly a matter of just educating the participants. The 457, if you're contributing to the 457 pre-tax, and you as a trustee, as a commissioner, if you're receiving any compensation, you can actually defer that into a deferred comp plan above and beyond everything you're doing in a 401k. And so with the 457, if you're putting the money away pre-tax, the trigger to get to that money is separation of service. There's no age. And it originally steps back from police and fire. It was really built for municipal safety. And the typical in Illinois, tier 1 policeman can walk out 20 years of service age 50. Same with the fireman. And so you separate service, even if you move to another employer, if the money that was in your account pre-tax you have access to, with no excess tax, just federal income tax. You can also, with the Roth 457, the excess is age 59 and a half, and the money has to be in there 5 years. The way that the vendors handle it, it's all pooled into one big account, just like your 401k, you can differentiate between the two. And for a lot of people, we've been educating people on just like diversifying a portfolio, that you may want to diversify how you can receive income in retirement. And that's why the Roth is such a great tool. And especially, my oldest is 24. And it's like you hammer money away as a Roth, you're the most bullet point you're ever going to be, take advantage of the compounding of interest. And he's like, what's that? I'm like, just trust me, at some point you'll thank me. And so basically, there's a unique thing here in Illinois tax code. Illinois is one of 3 states that doesn't tax retirement plan distributions at all. And that comes about, Jim Thompson put that in, Big Jim back in 1982, Governor Thompson. He wanted to keep retirees like my grandparents from moving to Florida for 6 months and a day to keep their income in Illinois. And so Illinois exempts retirement plan distributions. But one of the cool things you can do with your 401k or 457 pre-tax is you can defer on a pre-tax basis, but then convert it within your account. And when you convert it, you don't pay any state income tax. So if you do a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k or a Roth 457, you're paying federal and state income tax on that deposit. But if you put money into your deferred comp or your 401k pre-tax and you convert it within your plan, you pay no state income tax. And so part of the excitement of the Roth is if somebody's willing to fill out a form every once in a while, they can literally take their pre-tax money with a 2-page form, convert it to Roth within their account. You're going to get a 1099 for the conversion amount at January of next year. You got to pick it up for federal taxes, but you pay no state income tax. And so it's sort of a cool thing that you can do, and it's just part of the education of educating your employees, and it's frankly something that we've started to do here in the district. And so the other piece is I want to talk about this concept called retirement health care funding. What our experience is we've been doing this financial co-op since 2001. And what you find is that 40% of a pension check is typically gone between taxes and healthcare. And so when you separate service, retire out of the park district, you have the constitutional right to stay on Winnebago's health insurance. It doesn't mean it's paid for, but you can stay on it. And IMRF will withhold the premium after tax and remit it to the district on their behalf. So what these plans do, and they've been around almost 100 years, and frankly, Fidelity has a great study every year on retirement healthcare for age 65. We use that in all of our presentations, so thank you, Fidelity. And so, money in these plans, it's the craziest thing. It's like an FSA for retirement. But you can use it on premiums, and there's no use it or lose it. So the money goes in tax exempt, pre-Medicare and pre-Social Security. So it saves the employer the Medicare and Social Security match. The money grows tax-free, you invest it like your 401k or your deferred comp plan, and then when you separate service, regardless of age, you can start withdrawing money to be reimbursed for qualified medical expenses, including premiums. And so, again, the money goes in completely tax exempt. It grows tax-free and it comes out completely tax-free. And the catch is the money can only be used on medical expenses, including premiums, for yourself and a tax dependent. And so it saves the Medicare taxes for both the employer and the employee. It also saves the Social Security taxes. And with IMRF, that's a nice little savings that every employee is saving those Social Security taxes and you're saving the Medicare. So what can I use my account for? You can use it for co-pays, deductibles, dental, vision, chiropractic, co-insurance, and premiums. We've been administering these plans since 2001. Other park districts that we do it with, I think our largest is either Waukegan Parks or I forgot about Fox Valley Park District, Arlington Heights Park District, Buffalo Grove Park District. They've all implemented these plans, like the Village of Winnetka has a plan. Okay, and so they're really common out there. But basically, money goes in tax exempt, grows tax-free, comes out tax-free, and these are the things you can use it for. And you can use it for anybody you're declaring or taking an exemption for on your taxes. And so yourself, spouse, child, if you happen to retire with still minor children or children that are still your tax dependent. If a parent is in a nursing home and they're your tax dependent, you can use that on that, okay? And so again, it's anybody you're taking an exemption for on your federal income taxes. And the money comes out of the participant's account, or there's an employer contribution or any combination of the two, and the participant self-directs it. It's a portfolio of funds, looks like a 401k. The participant self-directs it. There's a fixed stable value fund in our program. We also offer a managed account at no additional fee. And so the bulk of our participants, and we've got about 15,300 participants nationwide, the bulk are here in Illinois, they basically say, you know what I do, I'm not an investment guy, you sound like Snoopy talking to Linus, they pretty much end up in the managed account, but they're allowed to mix and match their own portfolio, and that material's in this book here, just as an overview of what it does. So it's one of these rare win-wins. And what we're finding is in today's environment, where it's hard to differentiate why should I work here versus Wilmette or some other park district, what makes you different than another district when somebody's deciding where to go? Well, you eventually retire. How about a little bit of money to help you pay for healthcare? And that's what these things allow you to do. It's a win-win, it's triple tax-free. The employer saves all the payroll taxes. It's an above-the-line deduction. It's basically an FSA for retirement without the use it or lose it. And what we find is we find a lot of times that benefits and compensation are not in alignment. And so you see sick day banks, and it may not be the case here, we frankly never talked about it, but we see entities in some of the neighboring communities that you accumulate a sick day bank, or with IMRF, you can accumulate the 240. And what we're finding is that after the 240, there's people will just burn the day because they don't get paid on it potentially, or maybe not. And so the money automatically rolls into an account like this tax exempt. And so there's a lot of flexibility. Any form of compensation can go into this plan just because of how the IRS has put these things together, and they've been around since 1928. It's just a little restrictive on how it works. So our experience is it will reduce overtime payroll taxes, sick day banks, and OPEB. OPEB is that liability that's other than pension, that's on your balance sheet. And the idea is to allow a participant to really retire when they want to, because we're finding that a lot of people are working and they really, frankly, may not want to be working, but they're working because they can't afford the healthcare. And so to have a little bit of money tax exempt to help offset is a nice thing because it's not income. The other thing is you can use it into Medicare, but somebody pays for Medicare premiums is driven by modified adjusted gross income. This is not income. So there's a big advantage there. That's sort of it. So that's to keep it brief. I don't know if anybody's got questions. I couple with you. So
You're encyclopedic.
Well, if I can have one, for sure.
I just have one question
Yeah.
about the demographics of our employee population against the demographics of other organizations, because I think this is a huge benefit for, I mean, the younger you start, the bigger the benefit. And I just want to make sure that we're correctly identifying the benefits for people who are entering into this at a later stage in their career, because I happen to think, being at the later stage of my personal career, I think it's beneficial for them as well.
I completely agree, and especially if, when we first started doing these plans in 2004, the only thing we were funding them with was an end of career payout. Someone would get a check for their accumulated sick and vacation time, it would be $40,000, and they'd net 28. Well, here, all 40,000 rolls into the plan, that $12,000 made by 12 months of healthcare. So regardless of someone's stage of career, granted, if I was 24, to front load this thing and get all that money in tax exempt would be a beautiful thing. But even at 59, the thought would be anything I can get into it is better in my pocket than the federal government or the state of Illinois. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. I know I speak on behalf of the board, we are always trying to take care of our wonderful staff. We have great staff in this Winnetka Park District, and I think this is another benefit that, if elected, will have deep ramifications in their future, which we're all about. Beth, the specific ask in advance of the meeting on the 22nd, can you just repeat what the specific ask will be for the board?
So one ask is the existing policy that we already have in place, which is the 457 Roth plan, is to contribute, if you're willing to contribute $25 a paycheck for people who enroll and participate in. And then this needs to be a policy adopted by the board, which we would bring in March for you to review. If you adopt it, then I'm asking if maybe you would also contribute $25 per paycheck to that. And so that ends up being full participation, or per employee that does both plans would be $1,200 a year. So if they only do one, then that's $600 a year.
Do we have a sense from staff how many additional staff would participate in the first plan if we did make the contribution, and how many would potentially take advantage of the second plan?
I don't. On Monday, Joel is coming back to talk to staff and do a presentation on the health savings. He can do a review of the 457, and because we did you came in
3 months ago?
Yeah, to talk about the 457, 4 staff enrolled in that. I've had conversations with some staff where they're like, yeah, Joel made some really good points. He talked about it in ways that they haven't heard before, and understanding the value of it. It's just a matter of them really sitting down and like doing it. But we could have Joel's team come in, there's a day, there's time slots that they can come and talk about retirement planning and enroll right then. But I do think more will enroll, I just don't know if it'll be
And I
everyone.
think with the buy-in from the board to support staff is going to be a big benefit to staff to look at participating. So even if they're only contributing $25 a paycheck, and then that's matched with another 25 per paycheck, it's nominal on both ends, but it gives staff that benefit to help prepare them for the future.
Similar to what Eric said, I 100% see the value. I was kind of curious if it had generated how much it had been kind of shopped around the staff, and if they had shown any excitement about it. Hey, it's a great benefit, I'm so glad we're doing this. But it sounds like there's still going to be some education that's going to happen, and then maybe we'll have a better sense after that.
You really can't pass on the returns on the match.
Right.
It's a pretty good return profile that you're not going to find in the markets.
Double your money on day one.
Right. Is auto enrollment an option?
Yes.
So for those who aren't aware, auto enrollment is you put every employee in, and they elect
And they have to opt
Elect
out
out.
if they don't want to do it.
opt out. Just one way that I know has caught traction in the private sector within the 401k space.
Correct. We're seeing more auto enrollment at the state level. The state has imposed it on new teachers, effective 1/1/23.
Mhm.
There's a bill right now to auto enroll pretty much everybody in a plan as of, when I'm assuming 1/1/25, for anybody new into any of the pension systems. But that's still pending.
Yeah, not a day goes by they don't read about the retirement crisis in America. So anything that
And
we can do to
healthcare
help,
expenses.
and healthcare expenses, I think Fidelity would say it's $260,000 in retirement that they have to spend, so it can get awfully pricey. Anything else, Beth?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you. Have a good night. Appreciate it.
Any questions? Oh, sorry. Mason, sorry. Commissioner Root?
Well, you have your hand up first.
Rap?
First, I want to say thank you to Beth for bringing this to the board. This is really exciting. I know that you've been very focused on kind of bringing new and different benefits to the staff and really like critically evaluating what we offer, so thank you. I just had a question for the $40,000-ish. Is that already in our budget, or will that then require separate budget approval as part of the board direction?
So Jim and I talked about this, so
Okay.
we wouldn't make it effective until April.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be a full year anyway, it wouldn't be and Jim felt like, plus, I don't know that it'll be full participation from everyone in both plans anyway.
Okay.
That's assuming, that cost is assuming everyone opts into both plans.
Okay.
Jim felt like there was room in the budget.
Okay, that's good.
It's not built into the budget, but we have enough reserves to cover this.
Thank you, Commissioner Rapp. Commissioner Root?
Yes, two questions. One, I'm hearing that Wilmette has this for there at Arlington Heights. Have you done a study of our surrounding region to find out what districts have opted in to this?
So if I said Wilmette, I'm from Wilmette. So the park districts that we've done have been Waukegan Parks, Fox Valley Park District, Arlington Heights Park District, and Buffalo Grove Park District. Those are the park districts. Most of the communities around here is being driven on the labor side, so the police and firemen have been at the forefront of getting these done. So on the municipal side, we see them all over the place, but it's newer in the IMR.
New
as well.
for the park district.
Correct.
And then Beth, as a neophyte on this, are there other alternatives for this sort of plan? Or do you, Mr. Bobbitt, have a corner on the market?
We do not have a corner on the market. There are other vendors out there. We're one of the vendors out there. Then there are basically 3 primary vendors in the state of Illinois. And our trust documents are all a little bit different. We are probably the predominant vendor here in Illinois, primarily just because of the nature of our trust document and how we end up doing the business.
And then Beth, have you looked at the other alternatives?
I didn't know there were other alternatives, to be honest.
For 457.
No, for this whole
For the-
savings.
For the whole,
Yeah,
yes.
this helps. We have other 457.
Yeah, we have another 457, yeah.
Any other, Commissioner Root, are you done? Any other questions?
None. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cotto?
I think Beth and I discussed this last week, the week before perhaps, and one of the things that you identified as being particularly attractive was the presence, sorry Eric, of Vanguard funds.
Yes.
Which are the lowest cost, lowest load funds and the cleanest in terms of style integrity. Fidelity are also
Second-
good.
second
Yes,
lowest.
Second, yeah.
Louder.
I'll tell you who first is later.
Yeah, in any case, so just
Raise your
as,
voice.
I would like to just put that out there, that that's an attractive piece to have in the fund family, is a fund provider that is recognized as being low cost and style consistent and provides a broad range of offerings, just as Fidelity does.
Thank you. Any additional questions, comments?
I guess I have one.
Please.
Beth, I think it would be a good idea to explore the other options.
Sure.
just so, I think it would help our employees or staff to feel a bit more comfortable. If you have time I know you have endless hours.
I wrote it in my notes. We'll look into that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you both. Agenda item that was added, 8.2, direction to staff to draft changes regarding adding agenda items to the agenda.
This is my request, this is my agenda item, and I feel like we need to tighten up how we add things to the agenda. I think we have 7 commissioners. I think an easy way to achieve some consensus about what we should add to the agenda is to obtain a simple majority. I think Shannon should have the authority to add items to the agenda because she needs policy direction for everything regarding the staff. But I know that there has been enormous concern about the length of our meetings. And one of the ways to do that is to gather some consensus before an item goes on the agenda. And that can be if someone really wants an item on the agenda, they can speak one by one with other commissioners, perhaps refine the idea, perhaps gain broad support for the idea, and then bring it forward. And I think that sort of, I don't want to say pre-sells, but it allows you to understand what objections might there be, and then we're not all starting where one person is super motivated and 6 other people are not really understanding the issue. A simple majority just sets a hurdle where you can engage with one other commissioner one at a time, explain your reasoning, and try and gather support before it goes on the agenda. Because some of the agenda items are very specific to one person's interest. And I think it's a disservice to the 6 other people on the board to have to and I don't want to say indulge, but to have to listen if in fact it's something they would not support or they don't support having on the agenda at all. That's my opinion. So I would like the staff to explore what do other park districts do, how do they handle it, what do we think is a fairness issue.
Can I just comment?
Yeah.
Wilmette actually revised their policy a few months back to allow any commissioner to put something on the agenda similar to ours. And then the only other comment that I have is that under Illinois state law, any 2 commissioners can call a special meeting where they determine the agenda. People obviously don't have to show up, but the agenda items still need to be published 48 hours. So I think that we want a policy that also is consistent with, the law, and
Absolutely, yes.
so I think that those are a couple other aspects to consider and look at.
Good call out. Commissioner Root?
I just have a question of Commissioner Cotto. What prompted this concern?
We have had individuals add as many as 4 items to the agenda that are not necessarily items that are agenda worthy. They're more administrative, they're more procedural, they can be answered by a simple email exchange, and yet we air them and give them legitimacy when in fact they could be easily solved and easily dispensed with in a much in a much more pointed fashion. No one's trying to stifle conversation. We're trying to make our meetings efficient and representative.
It's somewhat ironic. I've been a commissioner now, this is my 3rd year, and our policy manual says that any commissioner may ask to have something added. And in my study of policy manuals of other park districts, I find that is what I've seen, that is the majority norm. Do you know to this day, I have yet to have one item that I've asked added to the agenda. So I'm still somewhat puzzled as to what is prompting this, and I guess with a more populist bent, what I see here is an effort to quash transparency and discussion.
I think it actually builds discussion amongst commissioners before it gets to the public forum. I think if I have an agenda item and I'm willing to bounce it off of 3 other commissioners, fully develop it, bring it to the board, and get it on the agenda with the approval of 4 other, or just the approval to get it on the agenda, that makes it much more interesting, much more compelling, and much more representative and worthy of board time. That's what I'm trying to accomplish here.
That historically, during the past year, I will go back to our May board meeting when we had a resolution for all of Centennial Elder. As I recall from looking at legal invoices, work on that resolution started in November of 2022. And yet, as I recall, that matter first came as an agenda item for consideration, I want to say in either late April of 23 or May, early May of 23. So I have no problem exploring this, but I'm going to look at staff and ask you, please, when you have something that is that voluminous, that you give the board notice, that the board gets to see drafts, and that it is not something that's suddenly put on an agenda for consideration with a vote within 2 weeks thereafter. That was one example. I can think of several others. And again, I look at this, we are focused, I thought, as a board, to improve public trust and transparency. Again, I'm somewhat puzzled. I understand we need to shorten our meetings. I comprehend that. But I'm somewhat puzzled as to how that's going to help things.
I think from staff's perspective, what I'm hearing as kind of a general directive is to look at what other districts are doing in regards to their policy manual, in regards to adding items to the agenda. And I think that's absolutely an ask that we can accomplish as staff, to look at that and then bring forward at a future agenda, on a future agenda, to relay those findings. And we can go from there on any adjustments that may be made. If there's a want to draft something for that, we could do that based on what we find, or we could wait to draft something until we bring forward more information on what other park districts do. We can do it either way. It's at the pleasure of the board.
I'd like to see what the other park districts do and how they handle the issue of a very lengthy agenda.
Okay.
Because I think that's been a challenge for us. We have many remedies as board members. We have voting, we have tabling, we have approving, we have not approving, we have sending it back. We have used the tabling motion. We have used votes. We have used discussions to accomplish the full airing of all of these issues. I'm looking for some efficiency, and I'm looking for people to do some explaining of their positions and gather a small consensus one by one with other board members. If you can't find that consensus, then I think it's an indication that you're going to struggle, that issue is going to struggle at the board level.
One way to shorten meetings is to expand what occurs on our consent agenda. And one way to do that is to build consensus on those items before the meeting so they can be added to the consent agenda. I'll point to the Village of Winnetka. They seem to do a pretty good job on that, so that they just have maybe 2 or 3 issues for actual review and discussion. It's just a thought.
I think we're all looking for best practices, as Shannon is a new set of eyes and ears, and so we'll follow your lead in terms of reviewing comparable park districts and their best practices.
So do you think that, would you like it, something brought back for the meeting on the 22nd or in March? I think I would be able to get more information.
Yeah.
For March.
For March.
That's fine. I was just gonna say, can I defer to you to gather your information in a calm and orderly fashion without burdening anybody else?
Yeah, so our next board committee meeting is March 7th.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable? And if not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments for 8.2? All right, moving on to agenda item 9, unfinished business. We have Elder Lane and Centennial Beach update with Costa. All yours.
Eric, thank you. To give an update on the project currently, I think a lot of the board is aware of the action that was taken by the village this past Tuesday, when Shannon was in attendance to hear the ordinance and how things shook out with the abeyance period and the adoption completed by the village of Winnetka. Based on the action taken by
For those who are listening at home, can you be explicit?
I was going to go through
Okay.
what was addressed, yes.
Yeah.
So on February 6th, the village of Winnetka moved forward their steep slope ordinance, ordinance number MC-1-2024, to amend the zoning ordinance to establish a bluff regulations for development in the steep slope area along Lake Michigan. That was put up for adoption and was adopted that evening. The takeaways for the Park District as it relates to the memorandum that was sent by the Park District through Shannon to Bayhan, identifying concerns that the Park District had with that. The village did take into consideration a few of those items as prepared by David and his team that was in part of David's preparation prior to the meeting. Those items were addressed at the meeting, deliberation was taken. Concerns for backfilling around retaining walls, the nomenclature, the ordinance itself was adapted to allow backfilling where it was necessary to establish slope stabilization, as well as that for the second agenda or the second noted item in those standards as well for backfilling in regard to retaining walls. Once again, more common practice in that kind of construction methodology. There was also a quick concern from the Park District around exceptional engineering that was addressed. The village took that under review and put together some changes to the ordinance to allow for, as required by the director being the engineering director, James Bernal, currently as well. So there were some things taken into consideration as suggested by the Park District in part of that memorandum. The actions that were passed that evening allow the Park District to move forward with our project to start getting our steps together for the special use permit process. The abeyance period, which was previously designated to end on April 6th, was moved up 19 days to March 18th for the end of that abeyance period. So between the adoption from last Tuesday, or this past Tuesday, to the 18th of March, gives the village the time to get the runway, to get their affairs in order to start accepting permits on that project. There were other discussions that were had at the meeting. Feel free to watch the video accordingly. But at this point, we are looking to continue with our process as was identified from the park board to staff to continue driving towards that project. With that being said, I will suggest that the timelines that have been included, the draft timelines in the packet, will now be updated. We will take into consideration the special use dates for our zoning, our planning commission, our design review, as well as village council reviews, and the timeframes that we need to submit those documents ahead of time for the village staff to review. Those have been moved up on this timeline. So just wanted to make sure that people understood what that was and how the efforts from last Tuesday affect our project currently. There's still a laundry list of items that the Park District will have to ask for either exception of or a zoning ordinance change for that, specifically to each project. And as discussed previously, each project will be submitted as its own permit application. So there will be one application for the Elder Lane project, and there will be one application for the Centennial Beach project. I'll go through the timelines at a high level, not to get stuck in the minutia of everything that's included in the prepared Gantt charts that were included in the packet. Once again, these are anticipated on the information that staff knows to date and is in draft format. This is going to be a document that's ever going to evolve through this process as other things come available and things are understood. I will suggest that there is a tentative meeting moving forward in regards to some discussions around stormwater that will happen in the future. So we're anxiously waiting to understand what findings will come out of that. But until then, staff has directed our consultants to pause on the moment for Elder and move forward on Centennial in its entirety for the design work, as well, not design work, excuse me, for the construction work, for the construction documents. So just be aware that we have hit pause on Elder until some further conversations happen around stormwater for the Elder Lane project, and we are continuing to move in an orderly fashion at Centennial, getting things prepared for special use, and then ultimately for bid documents as those special use permit applications hopefully, that would get approved with little to no variance from the village as far as changes to our schematic plan that has been approved by this board. So with that being said, I'd like to direct your attention to the board packet itself, the Elder Lane Beach project draft timeline. This was laid out in the order of affairs as they would need to be completed. First off, starting with when the date of when the park board adopted the plan itself on November 30th, 2023. From there, we moved into the permit phase, and at that time, we were under the abeyance period for this moratorium, so we were awaiting the findings from the steep slope zoning review. Now that that has passed, our next step, as I mentioned, is moving into the special use permit process. We are anticipating that process. It's already started. I've been working with the Lakota team to make sure that we have our packets in place based on the information that we know to date, so we can move and pivot as soon as the abeyance period was lifted. So Scott, Morgan, and I have been working on that directly, and we'll continue to keep that pace moving forward and get that polished for the different boards and the different review that each one of those boards will go through. As we continue through the special use permit process, we will have to present to the Planning Commission. Right now, we are anticipating that to be...
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Can you cite the line number and the task?
Sure.
So that we can get accustomed to looking and making sure everybody understands the Gantt chart.
Sure.
So we have a sequence of tasks. They should have predecessors.
Right.
Certain things have to occur before the next task can be completed. There may be lead times, such as submittal requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see this Gantt chart populated properly, updated every other week or for every meeting, so that we can accurately track our progress. So this is a lot of work. I think it's important that the board members and the public understand how to read this. So when I look at it, I see line 12, Village of Winnetka Lake Bluff Steep Slope Construction Study and Permanent Abeyance Period Moratorium, supposedly ending Saturday, 4/6/24. That should now be updated to March 18th, based
That's
upon
correct.
the
Monday,
ordinance
March
that's been
18th.
passed.
Yep.
So
When
that's
this was-
the starting gun.
When this was
I
created.
know, I get it, I understand, that happened 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to educate and make sure everybody understands how to read the schedule. So
Yeah.
March 18th is starting gun, the first day that we can submit for a permit.
First day that we can submit.
But there's a lot of work that precedes that.
Correct. The presentation documents for each one of the specific boards and the request that that board is looking for in regards to the special use standards that are reviewed, as well as what pertains to their oversight of that individual board. Zoning is one that's going to probably take a little bit more time this go around, because the zoning board now has the first opportunity to review a project under the new zoning ordinance. So that's something that will take some more time for that board to get
So
their heads around.
is ZBA listed first in this process? What line number is ZBA?
Sure. The zoning board is listed on line item 30. At the date and time that was suggested for the presentation on June 10th, with submittal on May 8th. The reason that the timeline is set the way it is was based on the Planning Commission, zoning, DRB, and the village board review.
But is that, you telling me now that that's gonna be flipped?
Based on a conversation that I had with David today, David Schoen, the Director of Community Development, there's some changes that I'm gonna adapt to this plan as far as to make this as streamlined as it can be, as well as the time that each one of these boards might need additional time to review our process.
So I know the community is very interested in seeing that these beaches get improved and opened, right? It's been too long. So now we have some resolution, we have a process, and you're gonna document working with the village through their process, but you will keep us up to date, and you're gonna update this with real dates, with real steps, with real submittal deadlines, and with real lead times necessary for consultants to prepare everything. But if I'm accurate, the first date that they'll consider permits is March 18th.
March 18th or the following March 19th, yes.
All right, so that's 5 weeks away,
Correct.
right?
And based on those dates and the schedule that's in the special use permit process or packet, the zoning board, the first date that we would be able to submit would be April 10th would be the soonest date, because the date prior to submit would be March 6th, would be prior to that date.
And there's no accommodation that we can't submit, even though we know when the abeyance period's gonna end, we can have that parked there.
Sure. These dates are accepted based on the village review and what was adopted with their last Tuesday's meeting, as well as when their dates are set for the meeting dates for each one of those commissions or boards. So I'm just following the schedule ahead of us.
This board approved the plans in
November
May.
30th.
We approved plans in May of '23. The village changed the zoning ordinance. We adapted to this change. We made changes that were then approved on October 19th of last year. And so we've been in a standstill, waiting since October. So now here it is February, and we're waiting till April or May. That's a year, or almost a year, 11 months after we had originally landed on a set of plans to move forward with. So I think the public is very interested in understanding why we can't get things done and why it takes so long to move through the process. So I would, again, focus your efforts on making sure that this Gantt chart is accurate, that it includes all the necessary submittals, and that our deadlines, and that our consultants have a lead time and understand their deadlines so that they can prepare all the necessary documents to submit a complete permit package. Because we all know an incomplete permit submittal, it's bounced, and you're back to the next submittal date.
That is correct. When the board took action on Thursday, November 30th, that's when the board chose to hold off on submissions for both the IDNR and the Army Corps permits, and we went through and followed the steps directed by the village to forego those
Again,
permits for the moment.
and that was
Continue
driven
down that path.
by a village directive to us. We were ready to submit, they said, whoa, don't submit to us first.
That is correct, and based on the lakefront construction process, the ordinance that was approved for that specifically, the process and the steps in order would be not to submit to the outside regulatory agencies, but to submit through the village process first, have them review, sign off on it, because before we would kick to the IDNR, there would have to be a request and a signature signed by the village that they accepted the
That makes
plans.
sense.
So we didn't rework the.
That's logical, that makes sense.
And it was clearly identified in the meeting that Costa and I had with Chris Rins and Rob Apatoff on November 29th, right here in
So-
these offices, where they clarified that, because our understanding before that time was different.
So there's
Alright.
so there's nothing that's keeping us from being ready to submit on March 19th with Centennial. Centennial is clean, good, ready to go.
Based on-
Elder, we're waiting for a meeting regarding storm sewer.
So currently, based on the information today, barring anything that might happen or from Tuesday's meeting, currently, our submittal date would follow the 18th. It would be March 18th or the 19th. I'll have to affirm that if we can't submit on the 18th, but that would be the soonest we can submit. We would be ready to go for the Centennial project at that time. We're hopeful that there could be a further discussion around stormwater prior to that submittal date, and we're going to continue working as this park board has directed staff, myself, on how to move forward with the inclusion of the stormwater pieces at Elder Lane as it was identified, and we'll continue to do that until we hear different from future.
But these are separate projects, separate permits, they're separate parks.
Two projects, you are correct.
Yep. So we can move forward on Centennial, and we'll wait for the village to decide what they're gonna decide on the storm sewer, or wait till we get a meeting. We obviously had, so everybody understands, we had a permit application submitted to the IDNR and the MWRD with the storm sewer solution, permit application signed by the village in the spring of 2022, 2 years ago. But now there's been some motion to reconsider, revisit that, and that's why the Elder Pier is still in place. We changed our plans to leave the pier in place based upon a village directive. So now we're waiting for further direction?
We're trying to organize a meeting. So it's my schedule, Shannon's schedule, Eric's schedule, Rob Apatoff's schedule, Rob Bahan's schedule, and Chris Rintz's schedule. And I do not think that there has been any bad faith in this effort. I think that there are some people who travel for work. There are some people who have, shockingly, the village has other items on their agendas, but I'm not saying we shouldn't also ask for our fair place. But we have offered up 9 dates for the month of February, and I am hopeful we will be able to come to an agreement. We have, we had a productive meeting November 29th, just before our November 30th approval. We had, I believe, Costa, you had a very good meeting with village staff to staff, December 20th or 19th. And we have been looking, we were hoping for a January meeting, now we're hoping for a February meeting with the 4 people to discuss the stormwater. And the request has been elected officials to elected officials, so, plus executive directors.
So I did have a conversation with Village Manager Bahan to catch up with him next week in regards to this topic.
I don't believe there's any bad faith. I believe there are some busy people, and we're trying to put this meeting together.
Looking forward to the meeting.
Yes.
And we're continuing to press on with the work that can be done, concentrating our efforts at Centennial, so we're not losing any steps along the way. And if the meeting happens and we can move forward in an appropriate manner, staff will keep up. We'll move forward with Elder as well, and hopefully submit simultaneously for both applications.
Is it reasonable to expect the Centennial permit application to be submitted on March 19th?
Potentially, yes. I don't want to say yes for sure, because we are still working out some of the kinks in regards to the design work. Now that we're actually putting pen to paper to actually work through all the information to make that project a reality, there's a few things that we've identified that we're working through, but I don't see why we couldn't meet the date. I don't want to say a guarantee, but there shouldn't be.
ZBA does not require construction documents.
You are correct, but we want to make sure that the elements are placed where they're supposed to be placed. If there are any subtle changes because of cut grades or anything else, because of our grade widths that we are needing for our maintenance access roads, we want to make sure those are properly represented in our plan set for what's being presented. So we're not presenting something and then coming back and changing it later and having an issue with that.
I also want to be clear that when we authorized this project to move forward, we said we would bid it both by land and by sea, correct? So we still have that optionality of moving independently, depending on, let the contractor decide the most effective method and means.
We have it identified, and Matt Wright and I have discussed that the plan set that will go to bid will be available. We're gonna request that we have not only a land-based operation, but marine-based operation, so we can better understand the impact, not only cost, but also time for each one of those operations. So staff and consultants can bring a determination back to the board what's gonna be best for the community.
Okay.
So if you'd like, I can continue going through the line items on the Gantt chart. That was, once again, the draft version of that.
So
that was submitted
line
from
30,
last Tuesday.
ZBA, that's going to be first.
So yes, jumping to line 30, once again, just for clarity, to make sure that we're all on the same page, if we want to go through this line by line, we can.
I just want to know the major steps. ZBA is one. What's the next step?
So we have 4 permits or 4 applications that we have to complete part of the special use. We have the zoning board of appeals, we have the plan commission, and we have
Where's
the
that?
planning review.
What
boards.
number is plan commission?
Planning commission is set for the presentation right now, line item 28. It was scheduled for 6/26/24. That was based on the dates and the provisions from the last packet, prior to the March 18th update.
Is ZBA approval a necessary step prior? Is it conditioned?
No, they're not.
So plan commission and ZBA can run
Parallel
simultaneously?
paths,
Okay.
separate, right. There's no order that one will have to follow the next. It was suggested that design and review probably should be last, and that's how it's been identified here. So you'll see that line item 32, design review board review was set for scheduled for June 20th, and that was the submittal date of May 30th for that schedule. So taking a look at that.
What is the predecessor for design review?
So the predecessor is the submittal date itself, which is identified here for line 31. For the design review board, it's going to go on May 30th. That's when it was identified previously. Prior to that, you'll see on line 23, there's permit review for village staff, 10 days noted for them to receive the applications. And that was stated that the first working day.
I understand the
after 6.
lead times and the submittals have to be done a certain number of days ahead of the meeting. Are there any other steps? Are there any approvals that need to be done before that? Does ZBA or Plan Commission need to be done before design review? Or is it just recommended that you get through these others before going for design review?
The only thing that has to be completed would be those boards and commissions have to be complete prior to engagement with the village council. We have to check the box for ZBA, planning, and DRB prior to the village council putting it on their agenda.
Okay,
That's the only precursory that needs to be completed in a proper procedural order.
so you're gonna be in touch with village staff so that we can do the work for the citizens, schedule these meetings, make sure that those boards know what's coming, because the village referenced it during their discussions of their agenda, that they knew that this was coming, so everybody should be prepared. Let's do the people's work.
Right. Right now, it's anticipated, once again, this is precursory. This is based on the village's current schedule of village council meetings for study sessions. I've identified that in step 34 here. So our July 9th would be the first date based on the previous timeline as discussed, which will be updated. And the submittal prior to that was June 25th, prior to that meeting for their internal review to get it on the agenda. From there would be a second read following, depending on the action taken that evening.
Are there any intermediate approvals that you have to secure from this board?
The only approval, or there was a suggestion that this board wanted to see the submissions prior to, the presentations and permits prior to submission. So that would be the only placeholder for that.
So are we prepared to submit plans to the March Committee of the Whole meeting, at least in draft form, so that they can be considered by this board at the March 22nd meeting?
Potentially, yes. I have a meeting set with Scott and Morgan next week to reaffirm where we're at currently. I would say we're probably about 80% on that presentation, and I don't see why we couldn't hit 100% by that date, which would be the Tuesday prior to. We'll get it in front of the board the Friday before, as identified previously.
I think that's the marching order.
I understand what the orders are, Lauren, trust me.
I just want to say thanks, Costa. I know it's an iterative process, it's constant updates, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of detailed work, it's a
But
lot of
that's
moving parts.
that's scheduling, plan, schedule, action.
I understand.
Updated
I understand.
weekly,
I
right?
understand.
If not daily.
Yeah, I understand.
So, and the community deserves the answers. We've heard it before. This document is a good outline, but the dates are clearly not reflective, and that's no disrespect to you. It's understanding that the village just changed the order and the sequence of when they want to hear things. So by the next meeting, we'll have this updated, we'll get it published, and we'll be able to track this every 2 weeks. Critical path. Because what the community cares about is being able to use the beach.
Correct. Do I want to indulge the board and continue walking through this, or would you rather see a completed updated schedule before we review everything?
It's up to you. How much do you feel like?
Personally, this is, for me personally, the two of you live within a Gantt chart, is that what it's called?
Yes.
You live within a Gantt
Yeah,
chart
this is-
environment.
yes.
This means, like, I can understand it, right? But at first glance, very limited intake for me personally. And
That's
if-
why I'm trying to get
I know,
it
you're
up to speed.
Commissioner James, the tone and tenor is coming off as adversarial, and I know that's not your intent.
Because I've been asking for it for months.
Well, here it is. So I would suggest.
Here it is, and quite frankly, we just had an event that changed it all on Tuesday, so
Yeah.
I think we can set this back into the work pile for later and bring it back to us once we've considered the Tuesday deadlines and how it shifts all the pieces on here.
And what I would also submit is, I think being a subject matter expert in this space, as you are professionally, there's probably an opportunity for you to connect with Costa and assist and work through when and if needed. And I know it would be helpful for me. This is awesome, and to have this every 2 weeks is great. If there was a summary document that said, I'm writing down.
These all roll up to the big bold things. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, it doesn't mean I'm sorry, I can talk retirement plans, I can't talk Gantt charts. So, we talk about ZBA, Plan Commission, Design Review Board, like, just, that would be a summary document a cover sheet that was attached to this that said, here are the primary dates and targets.
Yeah.
That could just be a byproduct of this, not really creating anything more
Well,
work.
here's the punchline. Line 82, construction phase, completion date, 12/31/2025. That's the punchline. So we're in February of '24, looking at a completion date of December 31st, 2025. And
But that's gonna get moved up, just
I would
because.
love,
I know,
I would
I
love
know.
to see that improved upon, but that's not usually the way schedules work. Every day that's lost today is a day that people aren't on the beach, 6 months, a year, 18 months, or 24 months from now. So then we have to factor in the season. And if we miss another construction season, which pretty much we are gonna miss what this schedule says, is we're gonna miss 24, because we will be going through permits and approval process in 2024, but we darn well better not miss 25.
I can assure you that staff will do everything in its power to meet the deadlines as identified, but there's restraints out of our control that we have no control over.
Deal with it
So
every
there's-
day.
Your suggestion is something out of my control. I will do my
I
best
understand
to
what's in your
present
control, what's out of
and
your
control
control,
this
the
best I
board
can.
needs to know, the public needs to know.
Sure.
Commissioners, if I could, what I would suggest, and what I would like to get clarification on as well. So if we are bringing something back to the commissioners on the March Committee of the Whole for something to then be approved by the board as far as this is our submittal on March 22nd, so that comes after that March 18th date, would the preference then be that we would then submit March 23rd based on what the board?
That's why I wanted to go through this conversation, so
Costa has
everybody
his-
understands.
Yeah, it's okay. Costa has his hand up.
Just a point of clarification, do we need board approval for the submission to special use, or was it just for the board's review? I was under the impression it was just for review, so everybody had a chance to review it. So I don't know that the 22nd is warranted or needed formally, so I'd love direction from the board on that step, because I was not anticipating a formal approval on submission of these permits.
We know what our
Staff
plans
was
are
given
going, I don't
direction.
see any reason why this board would have to review a submittal to special use permit. That seems.
The request came from previous comments and experiences of not seeing it, correct? So the request was, we want to see
I have
it.
no problem delivering on the 7th what we're anticipating to bring in front of those other boards. I would suggest, I'm just asking for clarification, if that has to be formally approved. If so, then we'll look to the 22nd and follow Shannon's suit with the 23rd submission after that, barring any changes or any motions that are made that evening. If not, then we could move forward past the 18th and look to the 19th for submittals.
I don't want to give up even one day. Number one, I'd like to go back and look at the discussion. We'd like to see them before they go in. I think that's appropriate. If we need to call a special, we need to call a special. If we need to move the 22nd up, we can move the 22nd up, but I don't want to miss even one day. I don't want our submittals to be latent anyway, so I would say move that March 22nd up. If we decide we want to do an approval, that's the easiest way to do it. And then we've got it.
Apologies, we were saying the 22nd, but the meeting is actually the 21st.
Okay.
No, 22nd.
We've already
My
moved it up.
apologies.
Yeah.
We've already moved up the day, yeah.
Good work.
See you today off.
Yes.
Question, Kirsten, ask you a question, just to clarify. As I understand, we are putting Elder kind of in suspended animation pending the stormwater issues. Am I correct on that?
There's a stormwater conversation to clarify the design.
We've paused on continue to proceed or proceed on the construction documents for Elder at the moment.
In regards to the stormwater section, that
The
may.
village has asked for a meeting to discuss.
I understood
Yes.
that. I guess what I'm trying to understand is we are full steam ahead on the Centennial, which I comprehend. My question is if Elder is suspended, absent.
No, I don't like that word, that's not. We're simply waiting for a meeting.
We're waiting to
That's it.
understand
It's
the
not suspended.
approach and from the stormwater that's been presented with the allocation of $500,000 to be built into the infrastructure in the north structure or the north breakwater. And that's what we've asked for clarification on.
And really, because there's so much misinformation, for the benefit of the community that's watching at home, the original plan was to remove the pier, relocate the stormwater discharge into the new North Groin. That was the permit that was signed off back in '22. That was the plan that was approved last year. And the village came back and said, wait, we don't want to do that yet. We're going to go review Southwest Winnetka storm water. Southeast Winnetka storm sewer solutions.
doing Southwest.
And to be clear, all the stormwater from 300 acres of Winnetka discharges through Elder. So it's going to go somewhere in the very close vicinity, either the north side of Elder or where it is today. The plan we shifted to, based upon the village's direction, was to keep the pier in place and leave that in place. So that's the plan as it exists today. Leave the existing infrastructure alone, work around the pier. But now we're saying, wait, there might be more. We're waiting for that
We're
meeting.
waiting to hear
Yeah.
what more there might be.
Yeah.
Yes.
As long as we're clarifying facts, and because we've had people come and throw out numbers, would it be possible for us to kind of say tonight what the number is so that anyone listening
Phase one
gets
was
it right?
Phase one was 10.5 million.
Well,
You go back to 2019 and we said, we need 10 million to do this.
Excuse me, could I hear it from staff who's
Sure.
working on this day to day?
Currently, the cost estimate that Matt and I have put together, and he is currently working on updating that cost estimate right around $13 million all in for both projects is the number. Not 24 million, it's 13. And that includes all the design elements, including the $500,000 of infrastructure being proposed into the north breakwater.
That was phase one and phase two from the, October plans, and that was the consolidated, what we finally approved.
The approved plan, as it was presented with the permit applications on November 30th, that was the latest rendition
Yeah.
of everything approved at that time and date. Our plan is based off of that, and our construction estimate for
Thank you.
build out is
Yeah,
$13 million.
And knowing that is a construction estimate, and we won't know actuals until we get bids back.
Yeah.
And that includes a healthy contingency?
Right now, that includes a contingency. I wouldn't say healthy. We've driven it down from the 20%, but
Okay.
yes. I would also suggest that as approved with the park board, $2.5 million were earmarked for this year for work to begin on the project. That included soft costs as well as some construction costs up front. Part of that was $225,000 for the purchase of playground equipment around the Elder Lane Park playground as well. Depending on where this goes and the timing of that, I don't foresee us expending those dollars this year, and then we'll budget accordingly through the 2024-2025 budget process as that takes place in later November this year to budget the entire amount, and we'll have a great understanding because we'll have bids hopefully ready to be approved prior to that date, so we can budget exactly what the bid numbers are going to be.
Great. So, thank you for that total cost estimate.
Thank you.
Of $13 million.
Currently, that's where it stands today. There's opportunity to lower that based on some things that happen. We'll see what proceeds. Yes.
Thank you.
Any further indulgence into the Gantt chart, or?
I just want to say thank you, because I know we have been asking this for a few weeks, and I really appreciate, like, even though some dates are changing, I think it is really helpful to see all the steps laid out with all the village meetings, and then also the other, state and federal agencies in one place, because it is a complex, multi-stage approval process. So I think that that's really helpful to have. The only thing that I would say is that, like, going through the permits, it is nice as a commissioner to see those beforehand. Maybe not necessarily for approval, but like I personally don't like when I'm seeing them for the first time in the village packets. So I just want to put that out there so that people know.
I'm not going to be able to attend next Tuesday's regular weekly call. If you want to jump on that. There's project team calls on Tuesdays for updates.
No, I mean, I just want Shannon to know, it's
with
helpful like in the weekly update or in,
Yeah,
another
and
time,
absolutely, and I think with a plan to have it at the next committee of the whole meeting, to have that on here for review, I think that's sufficient, and staff will have the availability to have that ready to go for that meeting.
I will not be here on March 7th.
Okay, you will be missed.
Do I understand correctly, Commissioner James, that you sit in weekly meetings with staff to work on this project?
No, it's a Zoom call. I am invited to attend.
Okay.
I missed the past couple meetings. This is progress reports, making sure that things like this continue apace.
I guess I will look for a new executive director, whether you welcome this or whether this is something that staff and staff's consultants should be addressing. And I don't ask that you answer that tonight, but it rather defeats the request that all things come through you.
I'm not sure I understand that comment.
Well, it's very clear. Our new executive director has asked that we not reach out individually to staff, but that we go through our executive director so she can manage her district.
So you understand that the board has previously established this protocol to make sure that this project can continue apace. And so it's a board decision as to whether or not I participate less than a executive director.
Excuse me, I don't recall any motion and formal direction, but again, this is, Warren, what I'm trying to do is to say, let us adhere to our new executive director's request that she manages staff and reports back to the board, that we're in an advisory position for policy and procedure, that we are not in a position as board members to be directing staff. That's why we have our consultants who work with Mr. Catullis, our director of operations. Again, I'm just
happy to put it up for board discussion as to whether or not the board should have a board representative when we're spending $800,000 for the public's benefit in developing these plans.
We have negotiating teams and liaison teams for a variety of projects as a function of people's expertise. And I think we have a board member who has subject matter expertise. And I feel like two smart people, Costa and Warren, together with the consultants, can achieve a better result. I think, I welcome that participation. I don't think it's frictionless, but I think it's valuable. You are also on those calls.
Yes.
And you are the gatekeeper with regard to who assigns anything to any staff. So I'm comfortable with that relationship as well. Anybody else have a comment?
I tremendously appreciate Commissioner James's volunteer time on the role. I'm certainly glad we don't pay your normal rate to advise the Park District, so I appreciate it, unless there's direction from staff that they don't, then we'll go from there.
I personally would like for Shannon to spend time in a couple of these meetings and provide some feedback back to the board. Possibly it could be something that could be a future agenda item, because for other things we have operated in pairs of commissioners. This is one where we don't. So I think that a little bit more direction or thought on that in light of the new executive director, maybe as part of entry plan or whatever, would be helpful, where you're coming back to us with a recommendation on how we would like to run it.
Yeah.
So I think with my coming on board and attending the, for the first time this last week, on one of those meetings, it was insightful from the point of staff working with the consultants, and we were providing updates on what was coming up with the village's conversation. This last meeting, Commissioner James was not on the call, so I haven't had that experience within that call to see the benefits that any commissioner would bring to that call at this point. From the perspective of looking at the benefit of having commissioners, because I believe that President Cotto has a standing invite to that meeting as well, so it is a two-commissioner invite for that meeting.
The reason I'm on that list is because I'm the liaison for the village, and I'm on the negotiating team with the village. So that's why I'm on that list. I don't always attend those Tuesday meetings. When I have something to say, to report from the village, then I participate.
So today is Feb 8, right?
Yep.
Feb 8, and we're looking at a March submittal for presentations. So our consultants need to be prepped and allocate their staff time so they know what a typical delivery is and a typical submittal and a presentation. So they've got to review all those requirements for each one of those village entities, know that they're going to hit the submittal requirements, and have a concise presentation, concise and compelling.
Compelling, exactly. The one thing I will note, just based on the March 18th deadline, or this time the abeyance lift, if you will, and the next submittal dates for each one of those different commissions or boards, the zoning board, their next submittal would be March 6th. We're not going to be able to achieve that. So the following one would be April 10th. That is for a May 13th meeting. The Plan Commission would be March 20th. That's for an April 24th meeting. And March 28th for the Design and Review Board with an April 18th meeting. I will also suggest that these meetings need to have a quorum to operate.
Right.
There is a potential that one of these meetings might not have a quorum, and that is something that is out of our control.
Yeah, plan
So
commission and
we will
design and
follow
review.
the order of
Exactly.
the schedule the best we can with the information that we have readily available.
Exactly.
We're
So-
going to continue to discuss and review with David and his team to understand what needs to be done. We'll understand the approach for each one of these different boards, commissions, what have you, and make sure that we're following suit with the packet, the regulations that we need to follow, as well as the biggest thing and the most important things, the special use permit standards themselves. This is the Bible that those boards follow to make sure that they meet the expectations of the community, so it's fair and appropriate to be built. This is what we're following. In addition to that, with what was presented through the steep slope bluff, we'll have to identify, and we've been identifying those different changes that we're gonna have to ask for exemption on as part of our plan. Those will be identified. We'll talk through the process, what drove us to the plan that we have to date, how we've moved forward through the planning process. We continue to take community input through open houses, working board meetings, what have you, up into the plan that has been approved. And we're moving forward that plan based on all the information that we received from the community. And it's that plan that we're gonna be asking for the variances on based on the adoption from last Tuesday. We know what it is, we know what to expect. All we can do is put our best foot forward on those initiatives for the betterment of the community. What those boards do specifically and how they, review the information, their understanding of their expectations and roles, that's not on me. That's on themselves and how they're gonna move forward with the plan. All I can do is present the information that we have to date. And I know we're gonna do an excellent job of that. Scott, Morgan, and I, like I said, have been working towards that. We'll continue to work towards it. Right now, our packet is approximately 30 pages or so that we have for the presentation to date, that we continue to work through and finalize as we work through it. So work is being done. We are going to continue to work on this, and we are going to try to knock it out of the park. And that's the best we can do.
Awesome, thank you.
Commissioner Rapp, yep.
One other question. For special use permit, does this schedule, like, I haven't paid attention to this level of detail, but I have observed signs like public hearing and like public notice periods for the village, for the plan commission, for the ZBA. And does this, with David Schoen counter, incorporate those public notice periods? Like, I can't remember if they're 2 weeks or 30 days or.
Yes.
The special notices that are required for the different sites, these notices for these meetings will be posted at Elder and Centennial alike.
Okay.
And those will be put, that's part of the village's process, and that's partially why it takes a month and a week
Okay,
lead
so it's
time.
in the months that you have.
The times that I've identified as far as dates to set this evening are based on everything that we need to do to submit. The village then will take our packet, they'll
Okay.
review it to make sure it's complete in its entirety, it's appropriate, it meets all the requirements that the village reviews internally with their staff. And then once that has been checked, they will submit it to their team, or in this case, the whichever board or commission, and follow their protocol. They'll have the notice on site. Depending on the commission, I believe it's 250 feet minimum, and I forget what the maximum is, that they have to put mailers out for each site. They have their own protocol. I can't speak to that exactly, I have that memorized, but they will do their jobs. I'm more than positive David and his team will do an excellent job presenting what they need to these commissions.
Okay, but that's all factored into the timeline.
I'm not gonna put that on my timeline.
No, but
That's part of
it's in
their
the,
timeline.
okay,
Yeah,
yes, but the time that needs to elapse is
Is
captured
based on
in the
those submittal dates
submittal
that
and then
I
the meeting date.
suggested, yes.
Okay. Excellent. So,
Costa, anything else?
If you'd like me to continue going through the Gantt chart, otherwise, it's up to the board to decide. It'll take me probably another 10, 15 minutes to go through everything exactly. I don't know if we waste our time.
I'd much rather see it updated with accurate dates and get predecessors and durations in there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this
So
has been a
what do
great,
you
this has
feel-
been a good, I'm sorry, Commissioner Rapp, I interrupted
No,
you.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
This is a great preview. And I think this is when your subject matter expertise and acumen shine. So looking forward to your continued work on this. And we're lucky to have you lead the charge, so thank you.
You know I love you, Costa.
love-hate relationship. I don't think we need counseling yet.
Commissioner Rapp.
I don't want you to feel like we're giving this short script by not having you go through it in detail in the meeting, but rest assured, I poured through each date and reviewed it in detail. So I want you to not feel the love now, but we have like looked at it in detail and really appreciate the effort.
I will note the one difference between the two other lines, they're almost identical, is there is a MWRD requirement. It's noted in Elder Lane. That is a variable that is still undetermined, if you will. We know we have to submit. I've put identifiers on there of what that timeline would be and how long that should take. But that is a variable that, once again, is outside the park district control. We can just put the information out there, get it approved, and get it submitted. And then at that point, each one of those different bodies takes over, and all we can do is follow their process. If somebody chooses to request additional time for public notice, or and the IDNR accepts that, and they might extend it by 10 days, we'll note the Gantt chart that the public comment was extended by 10 days, and then moved down the line. So we'll make sure that we're aware of those things, but once again, we're only as good as the information once we submit it.
Incredible detail. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Just a big thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody, appreciate it.
Moving on to agenda item 10, staff reports. Kosta, do you have anything to add?
I can let you read. So we're going to continue working with and trying to get the golf course project closed out. Right now, there was a few discrepancies in regards to totals, so we're working that through with the contractor and trying to get all the unit quantities, start what was completed on site and get that completed. So we're monitoring that and tracking. I'll bring back any information to Shannon. We'll review and then bring it back to the board accordingly to get that addressed. But also, we're also anxiously awaiting the opening of the golf course. We're going to continue to move forward on a couple more projects on the golf course that are larger ticket, and they're going to allow us to continue our efforts. So you might recall we purposely held off on the replacement of the number 2 bridge to go into number 2T. That is currently out of the scope of work from a structural engineer that I'm going to talk with Shannon about tomorrow during our meeting. So we're going to have a few things to move forward with. But if I can get support in a timely manner from the board for approvals on those items, we would greatly appreciate it.
When?
So right now I'm anticipating probably our March meeting, the 21st I believe it was, and we'll have it on the 7th. That's our goal. In addition to that, the timeline for the golf course carts, I know Vince is working on the lease agreement on his side of things. He'll be presenting that here soon, sure. But we need to build in the infrastructure as well, so there's going to be a bid going out for that, and they'll work to get that turned around. A lot of these smaller projects, our bid threshold right now is set for $25,000. I might, I haven't even discussed this with Shannon, so it's a little cart before the horse, but there might be an opportunity to up that to $30,000 to give staff a little bit more opportunity to work within 3 written quotes and proposals versus having to go out to bid, because with inflation, a lot of these jobs kept getting more expensive, and the creep of the bid limit never moved. So a lot of jobs.
The substance is the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
got it.
that would be something that, if there might be policy change that I heard tonight that Beth might bring forward, that might be something I'd like to bring as a policy change to the board as well, to help us grow a little bit in our ability to move forward on projects. I'll leave
Great, review it,
that.
bring it forward.
So, thank you.
Taylor?
Nothing to report on my end.
Thank you. Lisa?
I just wanted to highlight a couple departments. Tennis is in session. I wanted to let everyone know that their winter session will be ending next month, with spring registration opening very soon. The ice, we have started a new hockey program in partnership with the Winnetka Hockey Club. It's going to take place on some of the hockey club's weekend ice, but they are working with us in partnership to kind of really grow the foundation of the skaters, realizing that we have to get them at the baby level to then build up and grow their program. So we've created this new baby level skating hockey program that we're excited about. We already have 24 skaters in it. We just opened registration this week. So that's pretty exciting. Everybody is in the midst of hiring, so we are in really good shape With beach staff right now, we still have positions open, but we are in really good shape. We are literally interviewing every single day, so as soon as they come in, we're bringing them in. And summer camp staff have all been contacted about returning, and applications are coming in. So starting that early, want to get that done as soon as possible. The spring brochure did come out, and registration opened last week. Many of our camps are sold out, so right now we are evaluating all of our wait lists to see where we can get more children into our program. So I've also tried to reach out to some additional venues to see if we can find some more space again to accommodate more children. So that is hot right now, and we're really working on that to accommodate more of our families. Next week is our daddy-daughter dance. We have over 250 participants. 27 tables of youngsters and their fathers or parent or caregiver. So that will be a huge, wonderful event. And basically all of summer special events is planned. All the concerts in the parks are set. All the children's concerts are set. All of the summer dates are set. So we will be creating our summer brochure very soon, but we'll be putting out a whole summer event calendar to get everyone to start saving all those dates. And that includes a new partnership with the library. We are doing story times in the park this summer in partnership with them at our parks. So that's my report.
Wonderful update. A lot of great things happening. Jim?
Thank you. Just two items. First, the 2023 audit kicks off next Thursday. The auditors will be here in this very room Thursday and Friday for their preliminary field work. They usually follow up with some more detailed questions after that, but we'll be kicking that off, and I will be reporting to the board as necessary.
Great.
As we proceed through that process. The second item, Cook County reached out to me a short time ago, letting me know every summer, the past 2 summers, I've come to you with a tax abatement ordinance in July. They've asked that we submit it now by April 1st this year. So I will be coming to the board with a tax abatement ordinance either in the February meeting or worst case scenario, the March 21st meeting for your review and hopefully approval. It's pretty standard. We've done this 2 years in a row, but we're just doing it a little earlier this year. Just put that on your radar.
Great.
That's
Anything
all
else?
I've got. That's it.
Thanks. Denise?
Nothing from me tonight.
All right, for the first time, Manager Director, Shannon.
Dun, da, da, da. Well, first off, I just wanted to, kind of say thank you to the board for bringing me aboard. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm really anxious to meet as many people in the community and reach out to our partners, have conversations, and find out what the needs are of our Winnetka Park District residents, so we can make this the best park district that we can. And I'm really, anxious to, I have been getting to work, but I say to get to work. I've been, working on a lot of things already, and I'm really excited. And we have such a great staff here, and already the conversations and the topics that we've discussed, and everybody's just passion for doing the best job they can for our Park District residents is amazing. And I'm really excited and happy to be part of such a tremendous team. And I'm ecstatic to keep going, and happy to be here. A couple of updates. One thing that I did bring to commissioners' attention previously was in regards to giving weekly updates to commissioners. So that will get started on the 16th. So staff are on board. They're going to be doing their brief 1-page or less staff reports weekly that will come to me to provide to all commissioners. So all commissioners will get that correspondence about what's going on over the week within the district. That information from all of our departments will also go out to all staff to make sure everybody knows what's going on, what events are coming up, what programs are going up, what projects that we're working on, just so there is more of that openness and transparency within the organization. And everybody knows what's going on. So I'm really excited to get that started. So you will be getting your first one on the 16th. So I'm excited for that. Also, I wanted to make a quick update on the anonymous donor in regards to the beach projects. And that update is that there really is no update currently. We have reached out to the council of that anonymous donor, and they said that they would reach out to their client. And we have not heard back yet. That reach out from our perspective was earlier this week. So we are waiting to hear if there's anything back on that. We have not been notified one way or the other if it's still a possibility or not a possibility. So that is still open-ended at this point, and I wanted to give that update. And last, again, I wanted to congratulate, President Cotto for achieving that distinguished board member recognition at the conference last month. I would also like to say that I know staff really enjoyed going to the conference, and it's always a great opportunity to network, learn, and grow, and it's a great opportunity for staff. So I thank you for your support in that. And I do know that a couple of our board members were able to go to that conference and wanted to give an opportunity for President Cotto and Commissioner Root to give any updates you would like on attending that conference.
Sure. Colleen, you want to go first? Goodness. First of all, what fun. I had the opportunity to sit with Jim, you, Costa, and Denise as we were learning. And I just would encourage all commissioners to block out time next year in January, if they can possibly do it, to attend this event. And to me, what it's all about is meeting and talking to commissioners all over the state. One of the best events for commissioners is on Friday evening, they have a reception. And you really do, you meet commissioners from all over. And it's interesting because you hear about the same sorts of problems. And the number one complaint is, we just don't have enough money to do what we need to get done. So it's interesting to hear that. The programs this year, last year was my first year. But the programs last year, you could download a paper that I could share with all of you. Well, this year, IAPD has made it proprietary. So I have sent to each of you the papers that I could readily download. Denise, maybe you can figure this out because I sure couldn't. And one of the best presentations that I attended was how to stay out of jail. And it was so fun. And I wanted you to be able to see it, so I've reached out to the attorneys that put this presentation together. So I hope to be able to share that with you by email. For me, the best presentation I heard, and that's just mine, was Scott Puma's on a policy manual. And Scott, of course, is a partner with Pencil Blank. I sent you his slides, so you'd have that opportunity. But Scott directed everyone to a founding member of Ansel Blank, a gentleman by the name of Stuart Diamond. And if you just go out, he's in Chicago, attorney in Chicago, just write Stuart Diamond, you're going to see all sorts of resources for board members. I was just amazed at what is available there. But the takeaway on the policy manual by Scott, he kept emphasizing that no commissioner has the authority to either direct policy or to direct staff. That we only act, as I think we know, as a board. And it is so important that anything that we do, and this is Scott talking, not me, but it is so important that if we are putting together materials for presentation to other governmental units, that those materials need to come to the board for review and discussion. We just don't put things together and then send them out. So that was one takeaway I had from Scott. On the zoning lecture that you and I attended, Again, Ansel Blank, they've got a lot on local government. But what they were suggesting is, if you're seeking special use, it is particularly helpful if your strategic plan and your land use management plan are coordinated with the overall village plan. And I know that this is an objective that you all will be working toward, but they indicated that it just makes the transition to get special use go much, much more problem less, I guess, is the word I want to say. But we also, Denise and I attended a session, and I know you did also, with Christina Emmert. She is a board certified parliamentarian. I tried to get her presentations so I could download them and send them to you, but again, they were locked. So particularly the questions one, the common questions. And I understand, Ms. Cotto, that you may have invited her to come and give us.
I discussed that possibility with her. I have discussed it with Shannon, and we have additional conversations to have.
And then my final comment, I want to commend you for doing your self-reporting for the Board Development Award. It's available to each commissioner. And it's a self-reporting mechanism where you simply fill in, your hours and times when you attend things. And then once you accumulate so many hours, it is an automatic award that is generated to commissioners. In talking with Bobby Jo Hill, who kind of handles all this, she was saying it is such a good tool for new commissioners because it kind of forces new commissioners to go to events that IAPD sponsors so that you can learn. And she said that IAPD often suggests that new commissioners try to be included in the program. I have to confess, I wasn't aware of it until this conference, so I'm willing to, if it'll help the district in any way, it might be a good thing for each of us to consider. So thank you, and thank you, Winnetka Park District, for letting me attend. It was fun.
President Cotto?
I attended, I think it was about 6 sessions. The first one was It's Easy Being Green, Exploring Renewable Options, renewable energy supply options. And the key takeaway there is that they have changed the regulations allowing park districts to enter into contracts for solar that match the term of the service contracts for solar. So it used to be that park districts were limited to 3 years, but the service contracts for all the providers were 20 years. Now we can match those terms and we can actually access solar. I know the village has a solar program, and it's something that our own Adam Simon presented at, so I'm looking forward to perhaps exploring that once we get some free time in our calendar. The critical thinking about accessibility and inclusion was John McGovern, and we had him at one of our open houses. And the scope of inclusion and accessibility was much broader than I realized. And as you know, I was a substitute teacher, and we do hour-long trainings for all the issues. But he brought up several citations with regard to cases around seizure protocols, diabetes protocols. Each of these aspects needs to be considered when you're planning a program, especially with regard to camp. And the idea of an undue burden, which would be our level of proof to not allow any or not accommodate any need, would simply not be supported by the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, the federal level, has made it very clear that even if you require a one-to-one aid to accommodate a camper with a challenge, you are required to provide a one-to-one aid. And it's very interesting. I had no idea that this landscape was that developed. It was identified on the legislative agenda for the state of Illinois when President Peter Murphy, who did our internal training, came to us. And it was identified by the National Parks and Recreation Association executive that Shannon knows, who's in Michigan and very close to her former Maryland position, as, I think it's called, in any case, I'll get it for you, but you saw all my notes. So clearly this is a big focus. Universal design, huge focus in the construction business. And we focus on recreation. We don't often directly and completely match the recreation partnership with the accessibility and the inclusion partnership. So that to me was an emphasis that I think we all share, and a focus that I think we all share, but it was very clearly identified. Board member to board leader, there were 2 sessions of that, and lots of suggestions, and using Robert's Rules of Order in your meeting. I went to the first session. My children also surprised me for my birthday weekend, so I missed the second session. I sent you all of my comments and my notes, my pages and pages of notes. Then I finally went to equitable, productive conflict resolution for people managers, which was very staff-oriented. So it was if there's an established staff, supervisor, superintendent type hierarchy, how do you manage those type of conflicts? It wasn't necessarily applicable to our board, where we're all peers on this board, but it was useful nonetheless. But that was largely a workshop, so it was 2 hours of a lot of workshopping. I just want to say I thought it was an amazing presentation. I saw a lot of people who have come through the Winnetka Park District, and I was surprised at how many there are, since my kids started with the Park District when they were 4. And the second thing is, I donated back my $430 registration fee because I wanted to make sure that anybody else who wants to go, we don't have to make it a budget line item, that anybody else who wants to go can go, and we have plenty of room to do that. So I appreciated the opportunity. I did not know how the application process worked for this board member. Lisa Kapczynski was kind enough to pull up a couple pieces of information, and I submitted the application. I had no idea that it would be considered. So I was pleasantly surprised. And then finally, I would say that each of these presenters had a QR code or an email. So you can email each of the presenters and get copies of their presentations. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, President Kodo. Moving on to agenda item 12, board liaison reports. Do we have any this evening?
The only thing I can say is we're still trading dates with the village. I remain optimistic that we will be able to put together a stormwater meeting.
We'll get there. Looking forward to it. Anyone else?
The 36th calendar came out. I shared it with Shannon right away. It's officially approved and was supposedly ready to start, which I suspect Lisa had already been working for the past few months anyway.
I suspect you're right. Yeah.
But it is out there, so that's important.
We will have camps through August.
And the collective,
Limited camps.
and the collective community agreement. Sigh of relief.
Limited.
Anything else? All right, we'll move to agenda item 13. May I have a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, section 2C1 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120, section 2C5 for the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120, 2C6 for the setting of a price for sale or lease of property. And 5 ILCS 120, 2C11 for litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo?
Yes.
That motion passes.
8:10. So we'll stop the recorder. We'll be back in 5 minutes.